Is the word green forward or backwards?
Perfect. It's perfect.
It's correct.
Okay,
Forward.
perfect. It's reverse mirrored in my
Yes.
thumbnail. Just want to make
Yes.
sure it wasn't that way for everyone else.
No worries. Welcome to our first ever Speakers Got Talent. We have an interesting lineup of speakers. We'll now get started. Please help me welcome our Toastmaster for today. Kevin Lynn has been a Toastmaster for nearly 3 years, and he was the finalist of the humorous speech for the district. Please help me welcome Kevin Lynn.
Thank you, everyone. I'm really glad to be the Toastmaster for this Speakers Got Talent event. Let me first introduce what the event is. This is a special one where we are focused on coaching and providing evaluation for our speakers. You might think that's just like a normal one, except right here we have multiple evaluators for you who are all extremely experienced and have multiple of them have been finalists in contests. So it's almost like you're going to be the speaker of an evaluation contest, getting all sorts of feedback so that you can have all the information you have to become better or to aim for your next contest. Let me explain the format of this event. We will go through the speakers, and after the speaker finishes their speech, our coaches are going to give a 2 to 3 minute evaluation in order. And after that, I will give a little bit of a roundup and we will head on to the next speaker, and that will repeat until we finish all 7 speakers for today. With the schedule out of the way, let me first introduce our amazing coaches. Our first coach is PK. PK is an experienced Toastmaster who has been the Toastmasters for years and has been a semi-finalist in the World Champion in the year 2015. Our second coach is going to be Tatiana. Tatiana has been Toastmasters for 10 years and has served in club, area, and division leadership roles. Arnie is our third evaluator, and he has been a Toastmasters for years as well, and has also been a semi-finalist in World Championships. We have an exciting lineup of coaches, and also an equally exciting lineup for our speakers. And let's just jump right into it. I'll first invite our first speaker, Saloni, to be spotlighted. Saloni, sorry, is from the club Santa Clara Toastmasters. He will be speaking from the pathway of presentation masteries, and this will be his level 1 speech, project 4, evaluation and feedback. Saloni, dreams, Saloni.
When we were younger, our life was full of dreams, like this beautiful rose full of petals. I was the same, and I was so much excited about my life, and I dreamt of doing multiple things with this. So I tried to discuss my plans and my goals with my friends and family, and this is how it goes. Model? No. I'm not gonna let my daughter be some sort of model. Please choose a stable careers, dear. That will be good for you. All right. Sports? No. My dear daughter, please select something stable and secure for you. It's not just a very safe career, Saloni. Okay. What? Motivating and inspiring people? Is that even a real career? No. You can do best with your life. Just choose something else. All right, I choose something else to do with my life. But still, I have a list of dreams left with me. I have still few petals left in my beautiful rose. My life is still beautiful. But then my teacher came and says, you have to focus only on one goal. If you want to do well in your life, all you need to focus is just one goal. So just select one stable and best goal of yours and focus on that one. And of course, that will be good in people's eyes as well. Since I was always interested in technology and stuff, so I dreamt of being an engineer one day. And I dreamt of being to do a job in my dream company. I worked so hard for it, and soon I did it. Yes, I achieved my dream. But life feels so empty. This rose is no more beautiful as it used to be. I feel like my life is no more beautiful. A life with no dreams, no purpose, a body with no soul, a human with no dreams. I was depressed, full of anxiety. I was like, I have no goal. I don't know what to do with this life. Though I was enjoying my dream and I'm an engineer, I'm in my dream company, but still I was not able to realize that, yes, I have achieved my dream. I started to feel like my life is going in a downhill. But luckily, I came across a very beautiful quote by a very wise person, Roy Bennett, that says, never stop dreaming, never stop learning, and never stop believing. That made me realize that I can again feel the beauty of dreams in my life. I can again feel the petals in this rose. So I start to go after my dreams one after again, and I can see the beauty is back in my life. The rose is again beautiful. So, dear all, today I, Saloni Jain, would like to take this opportunity to let you know, if you have the audacity to dream multiple goals in your life, you definitely have the capability to achieve each one of them. Just break the rules of glass, look through it, enjoy your life full of success, full of dreams, full of imaginations, full of happiness. Just see your life and live it full of passion. The only one thing you need is believe in yourself, because believing is as important as breathing. Never ever stop believing in yourself. Let's not just make it normal. It is okay to work in a corporate, but still follow a little dream of being a teacher. It is okay to be some high-end model, but still following your dream of being a baker. It is okay to do multiple things with your life. Don't settle with just one thing if you have the capacity to do multiple things with your life. And as I always say, success is a journey. It's not a destination. So enjoy your journey of success, full of imaginations, full of love, full of dreams, full of happiness. Just enjoy it. So next time, whenever anyone asks you, hey, what's your dream? Oh, you mean dreams? Because I've got a long list of dreams and I'm not going to settle just for one dream because I can achieve multiple goals with my life. And last but not the least, as Ariana Grande also says, I like it, I get it. I like it, I get it. So let's just say it together. We dream it, we do it. We dream it, we do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Saloni. Now let us give a little bit of time for. I'm sorry, I think there was some echo. Let's see. Is the echo coming from Saloni? Saloni, can you try muting?
Is it okay?
Let me see. Okay. Oh, it's better now. Okay. I think it's just some kind of weird issue. Now let us have a little time to get our coaches spotlighted. That's what I was just going to say. And meanwhile, that's already done. So thank you for the tech chair. We will now move on to our coaches evaluation, and let us start with PK.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Saloni, for sharing your wonderful speech with us. Here are the certain things that I really liked about your speech. I really liked the way how you started off your speech, having a prompt in hand and saying and how you positioned yourself for your mom and yourself, and how you clearly explained what are the struggles that you went through that day. Your dreams were crushed, that whatever you wanted to become a model, then you wanted to be in sports and everything was crushed. But then came a teacher who asked you to focus on one goal. Very nice flow on that. And I also like the way how you emphasized that you brought out a very good point on how there is a pressure on you on how to look good on other people's eyes. I also like that. I've been in that journey before, so very good point on that. And I also like the way how you became an engineer at your dream company and how you felt depressed, and wonderful flow of thought and structure of your speech. And I also liked specifically the way you quoted, saying that the author's name, that here is what Roy Bennett said, and never stop dreaming and never stop in believing. And I also like the way how you called for action by saying, believe in yourself. And your belief in yourself is as important as your breathing itself. So I really like that aspect. And I also like the way you ended your speech on a higher note, that if we can dream it, we can actually do it. So wonderful job on that. I only have one minor suggestion, and that is regarding this prop usage. I'm not sure whether you watched one of the previous World Championship finals. I think a World Championship winner from Sri Lanka, he actually used such a style of using a rose, and he conveyed the same message, something same in the same lines. So I'm just letting you know that if you're competing in the district level speech, or if you're moving forward, this is something to watch for, just to make sure that the trend has not been repeated by using a rose. I mean, Arnie can add some more thought on that, but again, it's up to you. But this is something, if in case you didn't know, I'm just letting you know that such a prop and such a style of delivery had already been done by one of the world-class speaker. Okay, so just be careful about that. Thank you. Overall, great speech. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, PK. Let's move on to our second coach, Tatiana.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Very appreciate your speech, Saloni. Unfortunately, I missed the very beginning, but PK filled me in so I can continue. I actually came up with a few suggestions, and I want to share them with you. I think that you somehow need to work on your background and how you you are presented in front of it. It doesn't work for me, so I never use a background when I need to move. So maybe if it doesn't work for you, find a wall without background. I want to see you, not the background. I really like how you use the stage, moving back and forth. I think you can actually incorporate it in your speech and use it to structure your speech better. You can move with a purpose. When you go from one part of the speech to another, came closer when you need to share something very personal. And when you tell a story, go back. That's my suggestion. I feel that sometimes your speech, especially in the second part, felt a little bit like a preaching, like you told us what to do. And I appreciated all the messages. I think they would be even more effective if you would tell us a specific story. What happened at a dialogue presented to us instead of telling us about it. It also will give you an opportunity to use more voice variety, more body language, and not as a goal by itself, but to connect to us better. All right, so you told us that for us to have a long list of dreams, I want to hear yours at the end. Not just tell me to have mine. Give me an example. I like the rose. At some point, I haven't seen the presentation that PK mentioned, but at some point you showed us the rose without petals, and at this particular moment you said, have the new petals. So somehow synchronize it better, because it was a little bit like stepping
Okay.
back. So these are my suggestions. I really love the messages. We always told to dream, but I like to have a set of dreams. So I always have something to reach for. Back to you, Evan.
Thank you, Tatiana. Let's invite our third coach, Arnie.
Thank you very much for that speech and wonderful message. I'm going to dive right into suggestions because as an erstwhile contest speaker, that's what I wanted most. From the beginning, you said when we were younger. I would change that to when I was younger, because you don't necessarily speak for me, and when I was younger, that was a long time ago. To piggyback a little bit on Tatiana's, in addition to the background, the light on you was going in and out. I would definitely watch out for that. Language, at one point you said, and stuff, excise stuff from your vocabulary. I haven't seen I like the rose metaphor. My suggestion on improving the other is to make specific decrements of your dream for each petal. Like in other words, this happened, and then this happened, something like that, to make it more concrete. And then I think a powerful message that would impact yours is to have multiple roses. Take one rose and then say, okay, I'll buy another rose and then another rose, and then end with a handful of roses to illustrate your message of having not just one dream, but having many dreams. Now, in contradiction to your message, when it comes to a speech, you ideally want to have one message. And I think you had multiple messages that I heard. Stick to what is the one message? Is it have multiple dreams, or is it to follow your dreams? I mean, this morning, my inspirational message said, follow your dreams. So I went back to bed. But, and yeah, finally, at the end, you said thank you. And generally, especially in a contest speech, you don't want to say thank you. You just want to say, Mr. Madam Contest Chair, or Mr. Toastmaster, whatever it is. Again, wonderful message. I like the metaphor of the rose and the way that you did it. I think with all these tweaks, it's a very, very powerful speech, and I look forward to hearing it. Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Toastmaster.
Thank you, Arnie. I have to say this, Arnie, I totally relate to when you said, oh, don't do this, oh, don't do that. Oh, that's my childhood. So thank you for that extremely relatable speech. Okay, and thank you all for the coaches. We will be moving on to our second speaker. Our second speaker, Lindy McLean, is from the club Intercontinental Toastmasters. She's working on the pathway engaging humor, and this will be her level 3 speech for the project Engage Your Audience with Humor. This is also Lindy's speech for her contest, and so please keep that in mind when giving the evaluations for our coaches. Also, Lindy says she wants to have a focus on the clarity of the message and whether the closure she's working on is effective or not. So please also keep that in mind. Lindy McLean, ashamed of not measuring up. Ashamed of not measuring up, Lindy McLean.
Do you have a secret fear of being found a failure? I do. That's why my least favorite question is, Lindy, what do you do? Oh, I just wish I could lie and say something impressive. I can't do it. There's always distraction. Was that a pink elephant? Or I could run away. Nature's calling, bye-bye. When faced with expectations, have you felt ashamed of not measuring up? Where do expectations come from? I'm 9 years old, sitting at my grandparents' dining room table. The conversation sparkles just like the crystal, the china, and the silver. Our two dinner guests are academics, like my father and his father and his father before him. They are well-spoken, well-educated, well-traveled. These are successful people. Did you see that? That was an expectation being formed. No one ever told me that I'm supposed to become an academic, but over the next 40 plus years, that is the yardstick by which I will measure my success or lack of it. Look what I got in the mail. It's an invitation to my 40th high school reunion. I won't be going. I have never been to a high school reunion. Why? That question, I would have to answer it over and over and over. No. Would you like to see what those reunions would have looked like? Come with me. We'll start with my tent. Oh, Lindy. Hi, Amy. You were so smart. Are you a doctor or a lawyer? I'm a waitress. Oh, that was painful. On we go to my 20th. Hey, Lindy, it's Bob. What do you do? I'm a stockbroker. I'm a house cleaner. Yes, I'm using my Phi Beta Kappa private college education to clean toilets. On we go to my 30th. Hi, Lindy. Hello. Sue, what do you do? I've gone back to school to become an esthetician. I've always wondered what it would be like to put people under. No, not an anesthesiologist, an esthetician. What's that? Skincare. Just last week we were learning how to remove facial hair. Would you like me to demonstrate? Wah, playground revenge. Go to my 40th? Now why would I go where they can send me to stand in the corner of shame? I will not do it. My 40th comes and goes. But clearly I have issues. So I go to talk to my dear friend Arlene, who I trust. Now Arlene is lovely, wise, and 82 years young. Ah, Lindy, why do you think it upsets you so very much when people ask what you do? Well, clearly I don't measure up to their expectations. Expectations. Are they their expectations or are they yours? Well, of course they're theirs. You mean I've been cutting myself off from all those people for all these years because I've been busy judging myself? That is so sad. What if you change your definition of success? Arlene's question reaches across the years to my 9-year-old self, still seated at that dining room table. What is success then, Arlene? The older I get, the clearer I am. Success is doing what gives you joy. Oh, boy, joy. Suddenly, I'm 12 years old, skipping across town, singing at the top of my lungs with my best friend. Come see yourself at home. 16, learning how to soft shoe. T for two, and two for T. I'm 27, singing Al Green doo-wop at my own wedding. So in love are we two, just can't wait to say I do. Flash, flash, on go the images, and in moments I have sung and danced my way through life, ending with an entirely new sense of self-esteem. The truth is, though, I will always carry this fear of being found a failure. But thanks to Arlene, I no longer have to judge myself a failure. And that is 90% of the battle. I choose a new set of expectations. I choose to measure my life by joy. What about you? Are you measuring your success by someone else's expectations? Or by expectations that you took on at a very young age? If those expectations are leaving you feeling small or ashamed, trade them in for Arlene's view. Success is doing what gives you joy, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Lindy. It was a little bit of time to get our coaches spotlighted. Awesome. Now, let us start with the evaluation from our first coach, PK.
Thank you, Kevin. Wonderful speech, Lindy. Regarding your request on looking out for the clarity of message, I really got your message. You did a great job on that. And here are the aspects that I really liked about your speech. To start with, your speech was very lively with a lot of facial expressions, and I could see a lot of life through your eyes, not just through your words, but also through your eyes. Wonderful job on that. And I also liked the way how you started your presentation with a question. Do you have a fear of failure? Which most of us have, and I really got connected to your speech right away. And I also liked the way how you created images, not by just telling us, but also by showing us. For example, when you acted as like a 9 years old at the table, and you clearly painted a picture on what the situation was like. You were amongst three fathers from the same family, and all the crystal china and silverware around you, and I was able to clearly see the situation that you were in. Wonderful job on that. And I also like the way how you relived that experiences for your reunions, like the 10th and the 20th and the 30th reunions. So again, you didn't just tell us, but you all clearly showed us through the conversations that you had with your schoolmates. Wonderful job on that. And I also like the way how you practiced the concept of power of three, where you kept your number of counts on the reunions to only three, just 10, 20, and 30th, and you didn't go beyond that. Wonderful job on that. And I also like the way how you clearly said you brought out the pain in your conversation you had by saying that, oh, I'm a waitress for you at your 10th reunion, and I'm a house cleaner at the 20th reunion. Wonderful job on that. And finally, when I was looking for a solution, he clearly brought that solution at the right moment by bringing in another character called Arlene, an 82-year-old young woman. So wonderful job on that. And I also like the way how you introduced the pause before the word expectations, and also particularly when you defined the success. Wonderful job on that. Very powerful. And I also like the way how you started your ending of speech with another question. Are you measuring yourself up based on other people's expectations? Wonderful job on that. It really connected back to me, myself, to the starting point of your speech. Great job. And I also like the way how you very clearly ended your speech on a higher note by saying that success is always doing what gives you joy. Wonderful job, everything. So in fact, I don't have any suggestions. So you pretty much covered everything that is needed for contest speech. So great job. Thank you very much for sharing your journey with us. Thank you.
Thank you, PK. Let us invite our second coach, Tatiana.
Thank you so much, Kevin, and thanks a lot, Lindy, for this very entertaining, very humorous, and very smart and wise speech. I appreciated the message a lot. It's very hard to find any suggestions for such an accomplished speaker. So I decided to tell you my impression as a part of your audience, and maybe some doubts I have in the pieces of your speech, and see if you can come up with some solutions. First of all, I really like your questions. And have you ever been found a failure? And this made me think, Have I ever been? Yes, I have. I was watching you and I was waiting for the solution at the end. I watched your speech before, but I didn't remember for some reason, it was a while ago, what was the solution. I wanted maybe some sort of a hint of a hope in the beginning. Have you ever been found a failure? By whom? So I would concentrate maybe on people who were telling me this, and it will give the resolution at the end too, as opposed to a rather gloom way of thinking of my failure. And this brings me to like the way the speech was structured at the beginning, and most of the speech, it felt that it was your whole life. Here is the childhood when you were not raising up to the expectation, and very fast forward to the 10, 20, and 40 years. But we learn later that your life was not a failure. It was felt with joy and accomplishments. I don't know if you need to change it. It was very effective, but for some reason it created a wrong impression about your life in the beginning. I don't know if it makes sense. And finally, a suggestion I have is, I was a bit confused about the pink elephant. I don't know if it was like, I mean, I don't know how much it adds to your speech. So even though I like the play of words, pink elephant and the nature calls, so it was beautifully put. I just don't know how much it fits your message. I hope I don't sound too criticizing or too negative. I really enjoyed your speech. I just wanted to sparkle even more. Back to you, Kevin. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Tatiana. And last, let us have our third coach, Arnie.
Yes. That was such an engaging speech. It was, I didn't want to kind of write my notes because I was so engrossed by it. I mean, your language, your use of the camera in and out, your body language, your expression. I loved your face. Your facial expressions were amazing. And since this is going to be a contest speech, I'm going to try to drill on a few nits about this. Okay, first, there are 3 words that are important in your speech: failure, success, and expectations. So you begin with, so I would excise the word failure from your first question and try to use the word success somehow. In other words, instead of failure, have you felt like you haven't been a success? And the other is that I would, since the message was success is what gives you joy, I would use that more than the word expectations, because expectations was, in my view, a secondary thing. That was what caused you to feel like you weren't a success. And I would pepper your experiences with the little blips of joy. In other words, why were your jobs not giving you joy? And yet at the end, we found that there were things which were giving you joy. So maybe kind of a contrast. You know, like I found joy in this, but you know, my job, I didn't find joy in that, and I felt like I was not successful. I agree with Tatiana's comment about the pink elephant, because that has associations with with other things. If the point of that is distraction, I would use squirrel instead. Squirrel, you know. And I would have liked to have heard some specifics about what was it about what you were doing that made you feel like you weren't successful? Finally, I liked your little placards for the reunions. I thought the little kazoo thing didn't really add much to it. So plus or minus, but yeah, amazing message. I loved watching the speech because you were so entertaining about it and had such a compelling message, which resonated very much for me because yeah, just fantastic. I really loved every part of it. So thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Arnie. And I personally also really love this speech. It is also my second time listening to it. There's one thing that I want to point out. It's really, which is my personal opinion, as someone who sang a lot in my final speech in a contest, I actually saw that the effectiveness for the first time I sang was extremely high, but it dies out really fast, especially when it was executed consecutively. So I would encourage maybe some experimentation for your reliving your 10, your 20, and 30, have different kind of way to express that success, that happiness, that joy. And maybe that different kind of ways can offer different directions that compound together to give a better effect. Just my personal thought. All right, thank you all for a great speech and great evaluations. Let us move on to our third speaker. Our third speaker is Sneha. Sneha is from the Toastmasters Club, San Jose Toastmasters, and she'll be speaking on the pathway of effective coaching, and this will be her level 1 evaluations and feedback project. Sneha is also working.
Kevin,
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just like to add that this is also my district speech. So if you could, the judges could please keep that in mind.
Yep. Thank you for that.
Okay.
As you not heard, please don't be shy on giving points of improvements. Now, Sneha Sharma, take 24. Take 24, Sneha Sharma.
Bang! The door slammed in my face for the 23rd time. And once again, my most precious dream was shattered on the floor. My dream was born 20 years ago. Since childhood, my friends and I played make-believe games. Someone would become a TV host, someone rolled a pretend camera, and me, I always had the clapboard. Take 24, camera, action. Hey, when is my turn to play the TV host? And they would all laugh. Sure, maybe when we make a horror show, The Revenge of the Witch. And then my father would walk in and say, Sneha, stop fooling around. When I was your age, I started preparing for my medical exams. Only your writing is like a doctor's. Your brain is like a fried chicken. But Baba, bang! A door shut behind him. I knocked at it. No answer. A voice within me whispered, Sneha, one knock more. I ignored it. Guess what? I turned into a witch, exacting my revenge on the world through studies. I worked hard at home, hard in school. But when I was alone in my room, watching TV, I saw people in it. Oprah Winfrey, David Letterman, Shweta Singh, speak in style and confidence. A voice within me commanded, Sneha, one knock more. I ignored it. My academic excellence earned me an internship in Mumbai, the city of dreams. And I took my first ever local train to my office. My manager asked me, Sneha, can you handle the pressure? I said, sir, I just got down from a Mumbai local. Alive. But back on that crowded train, I had felt like a small fish bobbing up and down in the vast sea of humans. and I had questioned myself. Thousands of people throng the city every single day. Will it ever be able to accommodate my little dream? Back home, my father's tone had started shifting. Earlier, when he used to say, "I don't like that hooligan friend of yours," and now he would say, "Who was that friend of yours, huh? Is he from IT?" Why? Because according to my family, I had reached the marriageable age, which meant my time in Mumbai will soon be over. I started sending out my resume and photographs to the television studios. One day I remembered I have a friend from school in Mumbai working with a news production house. I left him a message to keep me posted about any auditions happening around. I kept sending emails to the studios, calling their offices, rotting in their waiting rooms, waiting for that one opportunity to be on the TV camera, which never came. And for the first time in my life, I started doubting my destiny. Maybe I was never meant to be what I want to be. And then one day I heard my father say, "Sneha, when I was your age, I was married and had 2 kids. Time for you to settle down. Stop fooling around." I was left alone in my room, with my most precious dream shattered on the floor. The television was blaring news after news. A popular actor had committed suicide. Another veteran actor was being interviewed on this unfortunate incident. I happened to hear what he said. Something stirred in me. It was the voice of courage. Just then, my cell phone rang and my father's number flashed. "Hello, your friend had come to deliver this poster of an advertisement. It's some audition in some channel." "Papa, can you give me the address?" "Yeah, but who is this Alok, by the way? Is he from IT?" I gave that audition. My turn finally came. When my first episode was aired on national television, my entire family and neighborhood had gathered in my small living room to watch it together. My fellow dreamers, that day when I was alone in my room, all set to give up on my dreams, I heard that veteran actor on TV say something that I can never forget. He said, "This world is not fair. But we must say to ourselves that no matter how hard the world tries to keep me from what I deserve, I shall have the courage to knock at its door again and again till the door breaks open and falls at my feet." I worked with the channel for 2 years and married a guy of my choice who was not from IT. That one knock more opened the door for me, and so it will for you. Let no door stop you from dreaming. Have the voice of your courage fuel your passion and knock at its door again and again, because you're just one knock away from fulfilling your dream. Just one knock more. Back to you.
Thank you, Sneha. Now let us have our coaches highlighted on the screen. Awesome. Thank you. Let us start with our first coach, KP.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Sneha, for sharing your Take 24 speech with us. And since you clearly mentioned that it's about going to be a district speech, I'm sharing my views on that. I really liked the way how you opened your speech by saying, "Bang, the door slammed on me for the 23rd time." So I could immediately feel the pain that you went through so many rejections. Wonderful job on that. And the most important aspect I liked about your speech is about the whole story structure and content itself. It clearly indicated that someone being an underdog becoming a superhero, so which is very powerful for a contest speech. Wonderful job on that. And I also like the way how you brought out all the props at this appropriate time, like for the clapboard and which hat and everything. Wonderful job. I also like your sense of humor when your father kept on asking, "Is that a guy from IT? Is that a guy from IT?" Very good job on that. And I also like the way how you created that twist. The third time, you're saying, "Okay, the guy I married is not from IT." So wonderful job on that also. Yeah. And I also like the way how you clearly painted pictures in the audience mind. Particularly for me, I've never been to Mumbai, even though I'm from India, but I clearly understood how you felt while you traveled in that Mumbai train. Like you felt like a fish in a small ocean. So wonderful job. Great job. Okay. And I also like the way how you built a suspense on what exactly your father was trying to convey to you over the phone and while sharing the address for your audition. Wonderful job on that. And I also like the way towards the end you said the world is not fair, knock it over and over, knock the door again and again. Great job. You re-emphasized your points and wonderful job on that. I only have one minor suggestion towards the end. When you said the statement like let no door stop you from dreaming, I thought that was going to be an end, but then you kept on rolling for like 2 or 3 more sentences. So in case you don't want to change those 2 or 3 more sentences, here is one minor suggestion for you to consider to end it in a better way. Like let no door stop you from dreaming, because knocking for the next time could be your take 24. So that way, like you're tying back to your title and you're also making sure that you're connecting with the audience. So that is my minor suggestion for you. So overall, wonderful speech. Thank you very much.
Thank you, PK. Let us invite our second coach, Tatiana.
Sneha, it's a wonderful speech. I loved everything. I loved the message came into my heart. And I'm happy for you, for your dreams. So fellow dreamer, you did it really well. I have a few suggestions and I will dive into them. First of all, I want to hear this, fellow dreamers, earlier. I want to be with you from the very beginning. And I want to go through these failures and loss of dreams and loss of hope with you. I want to be together. I really like how you used your voice. You're really good at using the pitch. Fantastic. You have such a wide range from low to high, and it was very, very effective. You also introduced your ability to use more of the loud versus like intensity of your voice, but it wasn't until end of your speech. I think you can use it in the very beginning, and I can give you one example. For example, when you talk about Mumbai, you could stop and say, Mumbai, city of dreams. This is just an example how you can use voice, and it also introduces, let me give you another suggestion on use pauses more. When we give a speech in Zoom, we don't use very natural pauses we use usually on the stage. When we walk from one place to another, when we turn, like every motion gives us an opportunity to stop. When we do it in the Zoom, we need to stage it. Just force yourself to stop and let us actually dive in what you just said. Door. I love the door. I love this analogy, this image. I want this door to be in front of you. Not to turn and look at something and knock. Knock here. Slam it here in your face. That was my vision. And I'm sorry I'm telling it to you in my command voice, but only because I'm rooting for you. And I really love your speech again. Thank you, fellow dreamer. Back to you, Kevin.
Thank you, Tatiana. And last, let us have Arnie.
Yes, thank you for, again, a very inspiring speech. I have, since it's a contest speech, it's going to be mostly suggestions. Starting from the beginning, you began by your scene in the basement where you were playing, or wherever it was where you were playing and you had to do the clapboard. I would revert. Yeah, and then you said I really wanted to be in front of the camera, but they wouldn't. I would start with that. I wanted to be in front of the camera, but they made me do the clapboard. So that kind of sets it up. One of the things when I was in contests that was really challenging is every part of your speech should contribute to the message you're trying to get across. And if something, no matter how much I had to take my favorite line out of my speech because it didn't contribute to the message. The witch thing, I could see how much you loved it. I loved it, but it didn't contribute to your message, in my opinion. Your message, which was to, keep knocking. And a wonderful message about the doors. Timing. Your turnaround didn't happen until the green light went on. Time it so that the turnaround happens sooner than that, so that you can give us more on the positive. And with respect to the knocking, I want to hear more of that. And I think your title is Take 24, so it's like knocked on the door, they slammed it. That was take 1, and then you don't have time for 23, but then more and more and more. Okay, knocked on the door. That was take 20, and then take 23. Oh, give up. Should I give up? Should I knock on the 24th? It's something like that. I want to hear more about this, the mantra of knocking and say take and a number. The other thing is that who are the antagonists? You had 2 antagonists. One are the people who were slamming the door, and the other was your father. Pick one. And in this, I would have less of the father, because your message is to, that life is unfair. And so in your various things, in your various door slams, talk about how this wasn't fair. I was so good and they rejected me. That wasn't fair. And then that will set up the message that you heard, life isn't fair. So again, overall, wonderful speech, great message. Just one last thing. I felt that it was a little bit overly stylized. I would consider dialing that back and making it a little bit more natural, a little more conversational, a little bit, not completely. But my reaction to kind of over stylized speeches is it sounds more like a movie script rather than somebody talking to me. So just consider that. But great job. I think you'll do wonderfully, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Arnie. I had 2 points in my pocket. One is about the pause. The other one is about the earlier turnaround, and both were explained extremely well by our coaches. So nothing for me to say anymore. Thank you all, coaches, for the great evaluation, and thank you, Sneha. Let us move on to our 4th speaker. Our 1st speaker is Dhyani Joshi, also representing San Jose Toastmasters. She's working on the Pathway Presentation Mastery, and this will be her Level 1, Project 4, Evaluation and Feedback. Dhyani Joshi, Perspective. Perspectives, Dhyani Joshi.
Perspective. What is perspective? How to have a perspective? Our brain is one of the most wonderful and powerful part of us. We can actually never tell our brain not to do something, like, don't think of a lion. Hey, what it did thought of a lion. Well, I was having a great moment this day. I was sitting on a swing and was going one way up and then on the other. While doing so, I thought that what if this is a hypothetical representation of my life? Because according to us, we all move in this circle of life. Well, I was having that thought again and again in my mind. Then I thought, let's divide this circle into 4 planes, like this. Then I took one of that portion. I realized that this is the point I am at. And if I take this point and think that I'm sitting on the swing and going upward in this way, well, I'm also going upward in other way too. So either way, we are always going up like this. See, we are always going up. But what about the point over here, which is not so high comparatively? It's the choice we make. The choice we make which leads us to where we are. What we say is what we attract. Is it actual in real life? Yes, it is. I used to have a friend in my school whose mom always used to tell me, "Oh my God, Dhyani, life is really cruel. It is never fair. Never trust anyone." What used to happen? That they always suffered a great deal of hardships. Along with, no one stuck around with them. I could not stuck around with them either. Like, that shows. Well, because they already had believed what the end result was. They used to make their choice according to that. But what I learned from that is that the people around us are the people who shape us. In a way, it's our choice on whom we choose. So we oftentimes have to make that choice wise. And it depends on us how we take the things forward, how we perceive it. Because in order for a best outcome, we just have to change ourselves. Words matter. Though how to shift the perspective, we probably cannot change it overnight. It takes practice and a lot of conscious effort to us. For an easy first going step, we can start with trying and use it more positive words. As to the swing or the life, there would be good days and bad days. On good days, we are happy and contained. But what about the days not so good? Is the days where we have to make a choice. To train a young one till the age of 7 or 8 is very easy because we are at our most active. We are observing rather than speaking that much. It's the phase of life when we record the most, which is quite fascinating because our brain is so amazing on that. So, what we sow is what we reap. So, a positive outlook, a positive perspective. Toastmasters.
Thank you, Dhyani. Now let us have our coaches spotlighted. Thank you. Let us start with our first coach, PK.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Dhyani, for sharing this wonderful speech on law of attraction with us. Great job. Here are some of the aspects that I really liked about your speech. The first thing is I really like the flow of your speech. How you started with a simple thing like you were on a swing and how you understood how exactly life work with the usage of swing, and I also like the particularly your sense of humor, how you tilted that graph and showed us, okay, if it is going this way, it doesn't mean it has to go this way, but if you can tilt it, it goes still upwards. I really like that. Wonderful job. I also liked your way of saying very clearly that how words matter and how important or how positive the words need to be for us to attract something positive. Wonderful job on that. I also like the way how you clearly said that how our minds develop until the 7th year by looking only by observing and not by learning. So wonderful job. So I only have one minor suggestion is that about the usage of your microphone. From the beginning, I was predominantly hearing only your breathing noise, and sometimes it was distracting whenever you tried conveying some important message to us. So one method could be to try moving that mic a little down or a little far away from you. One way to make sure that your usage of microphone is proper is to record yourself at least a couple of lines and see how exactly your breathing noise gets picked up by the microphone. So my suggestion would be to just maybe like lower it down or move it away from you. So that is one my suggestion for you. Overall, great speech. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you, BK. Let us move on to Tatiana.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Thank you so much, Dane. I'm sorry, I don't want to mispronounce your word, Dani. This is a beautiful speech and it was a beautiful message. Thanks a lot. This is how I think in my mind. I have all these analogies and it helps me. So I can completely understand and connect with you. I have a few suggestions how you may give your speech differently next time you give this or another speech. I think there are two things we need to do in the very beginning of any speech. First, at least how I try to construct my speeches. I need a conflict, right? There is a reason why I give a speech at this point in my life. What happened in my life? What kind of event I can share to explain why it is important for me? And then I need to connect to my audience, explaining why it is important for them. So maybe instead of asking, you did ask a question at the beginning, what is perspective and why it is important? Maybe think about a more specific story you can give to us and maybe somehow connect to us, which we can relate to, even if it's just a swing. You showed us a circle, but you only talked about the lower part. So I would think removing the half and just swinging, maybe you found yourself at the lower point of your life, and when you was swinging, you realize it's not the lower part, it's just the start of the uprising, it's the choice. And yeah, so introducing a conflict, as I said in the beginning, will help you to resolve this conflict at the end with us. This is mostly about constructing a speech. I think your delivery was great. I like how you maintain the eye contact. I don't know if you had your notes somewhere on the screen, but you were very much in the control of it. I like your background. I like your motion. There was not too much noise from the body. You know, I tend to use gestures too much. You were precise in your gestures. Thanks a lot. I learned a lot from you, and I wish you luck in your future speeches as well. Back to you, Kevin.
Thank you, Tatiana. And last up, we have Arnie.
Okay, yes, yeah, thank you for it. I think you had a wonderful message, and I have some suggestions mostly. Okay, the first is I have an aversion to the pronoun we in a speech like this because you're speaking for you and not necessarily for all of us. So I would change all of the we's into I's. Second, I think the idea of choice was one of the major themes, and so I would use that in your question rather than perspective, because as Tatiana said, the first question was about perspective, but we never really heard the word perspective again. So if choice is one of the main words, use that in the first question. I thought your gestures were very effective in emphasizing the points, but when you weren't making a point like that, you tended to have prayer hands gestures. We could just sort of see them. So if you're going to do that, make sure they're under the camera so we don't see them. Overall, and this is one of my the things I personally need to work on is that my speeches tend to be too abstract, and I found this one to also be very abstract. In other words, you know, choices and even the diagram. It's like, what did relate, for example, in the diagram, relate that to specific things, like what does it mean to be lower? What does it mean to be halfway up the curve? What, you know, specifically, what does it mean to be kind of at the height of the curve? You know, you said give it more positive words. Why? Why should we have more positive words? What's wrong with having negative words? Well, you know, set that up. It's like, you know, why have negative words? Well, I was giving myself negative messages. And so that was keeping me from riding up on the curve. And so when I started to give myself more positive messages, then I found I was able to advance up the curve in this specific way. Again, I would have liked to hear more specifics about all of you. There were wonderful points. Make them about you, and then bring it back to the audience about, what is your experience? What choices do you make? What kind of negative words do you feel are keeping you from going up the curve of your life? What kind of positive things can you say to yourself that would help you achieve the success that you're striving for? Again, wonderful message, and all the best, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Arnie. And I think there is a common theme that storytelling is one of the most impactful ways to deliver a message. And I think that is a main point that is really great for everyone to take away. And there's actually a quote I really like: leadership is storytelling. Maybe have that in mind. Now, let's move on to our next speaker. Our fifth speaker is Shardul Bhatmare. He's from the Santa Clara Entrepreneurs Toastmasters and working on the innovative planning pathway. This will be his level 3 speech for the project Connect with Storytelling. Shardul Bhatmare, is it analog or digital? Is it analog or digital? Shardul Bhatmare.
Our whole universe was in a hot, dense state. Then nearly 14 billion years ago, expansion started. Wait. The Earth began to cool. The autotrophs began to drool. Neanderthals developed tools. We built a wall. We built the pyramids. Math, science, history, unraveling the mystery that all started with a big bang.
This is how the most iconic series for me ended, stirring emotions and memories, and yet retaining the charm of its beginning. Everything has a beginning and an end, be it the Big Bang Theory or the Big Bang. And it's only when something ends that we understand its importance, or at least that happens for me. So today, I would like to begin discussing the end and what its impact is on me. I love the Big Bang Theory because of the jargon-filled conversations that engineers share in everyday life. So let this electronic engineer share a few jargons that I'll be using in my speech today. Since we are talking about endings, we are basically analyzing events with respect to time. So let us consider x-axis as time and y-axis as the feelings or emotions I have for that event. If that event, if the importance is continuous and smooth flowing, it's analog, as I'm showing here. Or it can be discrete and abrupt, as we see here. That means the event ending is like digital. And let's take it from there. So, for example, let's talk about the Big Bang Theory, the series that actually pushed me towards the topic. I have watched the series over and over and over again. And in spite of it ending, it has never lost its charm on me. Even in the most gloomiest of days, it manages to bring a smile on my face. And believe me, in Netherlands, we have a lot of gloomy days. So the characters, the conversations, the plot, the scientific discussions are still retaining their charm for me, in spite of the series ending. What do you think the series is like for me? Is the ending analog or digital? Take a guess. Well, I would say it's analog, right? Because in spite of it ending, I'm still into it. So it has a lot more positive emotions connected for me. That was a simple example. Let's talk about something interesting. Let's talk about my job, for example, something big, something of significance. I studied at a university in the Netherlands, and I also work at the same university. Now we are about to talk again, as we are discussing endings. I'm talking about the point when I'm about to switch job from the university to a company. So in the period of transition, like I said, I studied at the university. And at that point in time, oh man, I had imagined that place like Azkaban. You know, the prison from Harry Potter, where the happiness sucking, dread spreading dementors lay. In my case, that was my supervisor. But whenever he stepped on the floor via the elevator, happiness died, laughter quietened, silence fell, panic spread. And that's how it has always been. So if I have to consider my study period and my job phase, there's also a contrast there. My job was amazing. My manager was sweet, the colleagues were nice. Overall, the spirit was quite good. But when the period of transition came, I switched from the university to my company as if a button had flipped. Now, what does this end sound like? Does it sound analog or digital? Yeah, mainly digital, right? But that's because I had a lot of bad memories that I associated with the place. So it never felt that happy, that happening place, in spite of when my how my job phase was. So now, so far, we discussed something insignificant like the series, something significant like a job. Let's try something complicated. Let's talk relationship. Obviously, there's nothing as complicated as that. So even in case of a relationship, we are zooming in right towards the end at the point of breakup. To start off, I had met this amazing girl, Sonia. Attraction led to courtship, led to a relationship. And now we zoom on to the day of the breakup. We just wanted different things in our life. It wasn't clicking anymore, and things had become falling apart. So the transition from a couple to being a single was instant. It was as if the end was digital. But when I began to think again, got some perspective, I wanted to connect again. I still had feelings for her. It wasn't as if I didn't love her anymore. So basically, rethinking and reviewing my emotions brought us close together. To a degree, it was also aided by my friends and a bit of alcohol, but let's not discuss that. Eventually, things were not just working out. The differences got bigger and wider, and things fell apart. So, in this messy situation, what do you think? Was it the ending analog or digital? Analog, right? Because there were some upticks, there were some downticks, and a whole lot of antics in between. But in each of these examples, I was personally involved. So I am out of the equation. So what made them analog or digital? Why was one ending analog and the other digital? Involvement is gone. So it may be because of the emotions or the experiences I had. The Big Bang Theory or my relationship always had a lot of positive vibes for me. And if we consider my life at the university, not so much. So right now, when I think about some situation in my life in general, I wonder what would its end be like? Whether I had a lot of good examples or bad, or how the end will look like. And I always ask myself whether it will be analog or it will be digital.
Thank you, Shadow. Let us have our coaches spotlighted. Awesome. Now let us start with our first coach, PK.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Shadow, for this very electronic speech that you gave. It was, I'm actually a mixed signal engineer who works both on analog and digital, so I was able to connect with your speech. Okay, so here are the things, aspects I really liked about your speech. I like the way you started with the video, which was quite unusual. And even though I've seen that Big Bang Theory series, I was wondering like why was Shardul showing this for almost 30 seconds now? So one thing is like, then you started like everything has a beginning and an end. So I was expecting that, okay, you're going to talk something related to the Big Bang Theory and your life. And the next thing I liked about your speech is that you had graphs that clearly explained what exactly analog means and what exactly digital means for those who are non-electronic engineers. So you did a great job on that. And I also liked your sense of humor when you said like your manager stepped into the elevator, the happiness died and the panic spread. So I could relate to that because I had a couple of such managers in my life. Thank you. And I also like the way how you clearly said that here are some situations that could look like an analog situation. Here are some situations that could like a digital. And you also explained that Big Bang is like analog and your manager was like a digital and your relationship ended up like an analog graph. So I could personally relate because I was an engineer. But here is the trouble. For those who are not engineers, specifically the ones who are not electronic engineers, they might have some hard time understanding your speech. So that is my little concern that I had when I listened to your speech. Now, here are a couple of more suggestions that I would like for you to consider. The first thing is when I looked into your speech as an audience member, like, I found out that the benefit factor of listening to your speech was missing. Like, what's in it for me if I listen to your speech? When you ended your speech, I was left confused. Should I look up into my life like as should I see it as an analog waveform or should I try to tweak it as a digital being cutthroat or something like that? So that thing was totally missing. So what's in it factor was missing. And the next thing I noticed is the structure and the content was not concrete enough for me to get a grasp to the message that you tried conveying to us, at least for me. So I would revisit the speech and make your theme or the message concrete. Like, okay, maybe you can say like, hey, analog is the best way to approach it, or sometimes digital is the best way to approach it. So that is these are the two minor suggestions that I had for you. So overall, as an electronic engineer, I was able to understand your speech. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, PK. And next up, we have Tatiana.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Thank you so much, Shardul. It was very interesting. I actually tried to decipher all your messages. I like the analogy. So it was very entertaining. You are very effective in gestures. I like how you showed, put a smile on my face. It was very effective. Like I even wrote it down, even though I still remember. And I very much like the conversational style. It was, I don't know if you wrote your speech or you just had some bullet points, but it felt conversational, even though it's a rather complicated concept. So I have a few suggestions actually, which relates to the concept and to the overall speech. I was a bit confused in the beginning by the message. It felt that you were trying to tell me that the process, the journey is not that important, that the final destination, the end, is what's important. But at the end, when you summarized your speech and the whole analogy of analog versus discrete actually brought to me the understanding that it's about the journey for you, that the end will depend on what the journey was like in emotional context or any other context. So I think it's very important for a speaker, and I try to do it all the time. When I get an idea, I write a speech, and then I try to put my message in 3 to 5 words. And then I strip everything out which doesn't fit to my message. So maybe this is an exercise you can apply as well. I have I don't know how to say, a few points about, I like the analogy, so I wanted to dig deeper. I didn't understand why both your analog signal and your digitized version has this negative trend. There is no ups and downs, it all goes down. And if you actually put the the digital version in a different way. It doesn't need to start with 1. It can start with 0 and go to 1 immediately. It sort of undermines your message, right? You still can have a positive digitizing of your life, digitized version of your life. It depends on the trend. So it doesn't actually contribute. I understand this part of my evaluation doesn't contribute to the speaking or the delivery, but this is what your speech made me think about. And I think this is a goal of any speech, to make the audience think. You made it. You did it. Thank you, Shardo.
Thank you, Tatiana. And last up, we have Arnie.
And I too am a big Bang Theory fan, so I appreciated that part. I'll dive right in. I too like the gestures, but your resting gesture was also the prayer hands that I mentioned in the previous speech. So watch out for that. You can watch the video on that. One little language thing where you said, I'm going to share a few jargons. You know, maybe I'm going to share some jargon just as a grammarian thing. Yeah, like what was the message here? And like I said, why should I care? What difference does it make? So I would just work on what is it, because you had 3 specific examples, and I thought that was good. But now, as far as timing goes, let me go back to the video. Didn't add anything at all. If the audience knows what Big Bang Theory is, you just have to refer to it. You were running. I saw the red light at the end, so all that time in the video you could have spent setting your speech up. Watch out for mixed metaphors. So Big Bang Theory was the overarching one, but then you threw Harry Potter in the middle. There were opportunities, so the evil manager could have been like the HR guy, the HR woman, or the dean, or make a Big Bang reference to the evil manager there. Now, as far as I thought the pictures were effective, but they weren't. And now the digital was just sort of a single one. It wasn't a digitized version of the analog signal. And I don't know if that really matters one way or the other. But yeah, it was a fascinating metaphor, and relating it, the idea of the end versus the beginning. The digital meant something which just sort of ends, and the analog was something that kind of continues. So I would have more specific examples of that, or maybe dial back the examples and go deeper, maybe into the relationship one. That's something that's dear to my heart, because relationships are very complex, and they're both analog and digital in my view. And actually, every relationship does have an end of one kind, another. I've been married for over 40 years. We've been analog, but at some point we're going to go digital, unfortunately. But that's the nature of life. But I love the the geekiness of it all, and I just hone on the message. Like, again, like what's in it for me? Why should I care whether it's digital or analog? I think you got something there. Just make that point. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Arnie. And I really wanted to build onto that point that, at least for me, I think in speeches, it is more important to go for more depth than breadth. Instead of having multiple examples, having one that really hones down the point that you can really have it stick with the audience, I think that is typically more impactful and more effective. But yeah, again, I love the digital references, engineers, all of those geek stuff. I love them. All right, and let's move on to our next speaker. Our next speaker is Lena Empikar. This is from the club Amazon Cupertino Toastmasters, and she'll be speaking on a international speak contest speech. She's preparing for it, so I assume this is going to be something that occurs either later of this year or earlier next year, but great early preparation.
So I presented this speech in area level contest and then went to division level, but then I couldn't make it to district level. So I want to know what went wrong in my speech.
Awesome. So it's a reflection. Amazing. All right. Lena and Picard for Unplugged and Unforgettable. Unplugged and Unforgettable, Lena and Picard.
As a lover of the great outdoor, I always felt that nature has a way to recharge our batteries, to remind us of simple things in life. Good morning, my fellow Toastmasters. As convincing a teenager to leave his gadgets behind and go camping is as easy as getting a cat to take a bath. When my teenage son announced that he would rather spend his summer vacation glued to his video game than go camping with me, I knew that I have to appeal to his sense of adventure and make it seem as exciting as his latest video game. I started a conversation with him. Do you know we didn't have internet during our childhood? He was shocked. What? How did you survive without internet? Life would be boring back then. And my reaction was, not really. Life was simpler and more joyful back then. Let me tell you the story when I went for my first camping trip. It was summertime in India. Couple of friends and my family decided to go on an adventurous trip. As it was our first time, it took us almost a month to prepare for it. After detailed preparation, the day arrived. We began our journey on this adventurous trip with lots of excitement and enthusiasm. Although we rented a minivan to carry our luggage, we enjoyed walking in the nature. And when we arrived at the campsite, it was the most picture perfect scenery I, a 13-year-old, had ever seen. There was a thousands of years old temple made with rocks. A beautiful river flowed behind it. When the sky filled with red and orange color, we could see the reflection of sunset in that river water. While adults were busy making dinner, we kids enjoyed playing in the river. There was a boardwalk. We also made the iconic Titanic pose there. That time we didn't have mobile camera to capture all these fun memories. But we took mental image of that beautiful place and stored in our hearts forever. After stuffing our tummies with delicious food, it was time for us to go to bed. It was not actually a bed. It was just a mat on the floor and a thin blanket to cover our bodies. But due to the enormous physical activity we had during the day, we fell asleep straight away, hoping to restore our energy for the next day. But wait, God had made some different plans for us to make our trip more exciting and adventurous. At around 2 a.m., it started to rain unexpectedly. It usually doesn't rain in India during early summer season, but that day it rained. We scattered around to look for shelter. Remember that temple I told you earlier? That became our safe place. We each got spot and went back to our dreamland. After a while, I felt something on my arm, but I opened my eyes, but due to darkness, I couldn't see it properly. Something was crawling on my hand. Scorpion! Scorpions are poisonous. Oh God, what if it bites me? God help me, I don't want to die here. What should I do? Come on, Nina, come on. I gathered all my courage and shook that bug as hard as possible and ran straight towards our minivan. It was pitch dark out there. The combination of wind howling and tree branches swaying back and forth almost sounded like, I'm going to get you. I locked myself in the minivan and prayed that it would get over soon. My son, who was listening to this story whole time, got curious and asked me, what did you do then, Mama? Did you end your trip there and came back home? And I said, no, dear. Although it was a scary night, it was the lifetime experience worth sharing. That day, I realized that I was braver than I thought. Not only I realized about my own strength, but during that trip, I collected many remarkable memories. Some funny, some scary, some adventurous, but most of all, inspiring. That trip has broadened my horizon on life perspective, opened my mind for new possibilities. And my son said, hey, that's cool. I too want to have such experiences in my life. Mama, let's go camping. And my reaction was, yes. Finally, I convinced him to unplug from his technology and go enjoy simple things in life. Now, if you excuse me, I have to check my phone, take a selfie and update my Facebook status. Just kidding. I'm going to go for a walk, enjoy the sunshine, admire the beauty of blooming flowers, and have conversation with real human being. It's new world out there, and it has its own challenges. By keeping our modern lifestyle, we need to recharge our batteries time to time. And how to do it? Simple. Just unplug yourself from technology, go in the nature, and collect many remarkable, unforgettable experiences. Thank you. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Lena. Now let's have our coaches spotlighted. Yep. All right. Now let us start with our first coach, PK.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Lena, for sharing your experience on what happened with your son and how you took him out for camping. Wonderful job on that. So since you clearly requested that what went wrong in your area contest, I'm going to focus my aspects of feedback on that front. The first thing I noticed is getting to the point was missing. The beginning, the first 20 seconds of a contest speech is very important because that's where you grab the attention of the audience and you want to get them hooked onto your message or your speech. So that was missing in the first 20 seconds. The next thing I noticed is you could have rearranged or reconfigured the speech in such a way that you could have began your speech by saying that there was a scorpion in my hand. You could have started your speech with that incident, and maybe you could have went back in time to recollect why you were explaining that incident to us. Because in the first 20 seconds, if you say like a scorpion was crawling over your hand, it immediately brings a connection with the audience. So I mean, that is something for you to consider. It's up to you again. Okay. And the next thing I noticed is I could clearly anticipate what was coming next in your speech. Because you started with the phone, how your son was addicted to the phone, and then you said you wanted to go out for camping. So I could clearly see that there was a problem coming. Here is something that I learned from one of my speech coaches, who is a past world champion. And he always suggested me to do this, like say the problem first, give a solution, or share the solution and share an application. So that was one thing I was looking forward in your speech, and that could have made your speech better in the area contest. So the division contest. So these are the three suggestions I have for you. But other than that, I really liked the aspects of how you built your storyline and how the message you tried to convey to us and how you wanted us to recharge by connecting with the nature and getting rid of the phone and all the technology. So the message was clear, just rearranging certain things would have made it a little bit better. So thank you.
Thank you, PK. And next we have Tatiana.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you so much, Lena. It was very entertaining. I enjoyed the story about your trip. I have a few thoughts after your speech. I want to make a disclaimer first. I don't think what went wrong. I mean, there is things, sometimes you will, if you haven't noticed it yet, but sometimes it's very hard to predict the winner. It doesn't mean that your speech was worse than any other speeches. It's personal solution, personal decisions by judges. So don't think about it in terms what went wrong. What you can do differently, maybe. I agree that you need a message, and I wrote down a few sentences which I thought would be a message, and I didn't come up with a very coherent one at the end. I really like how you worded it. To recharge, we need to unplug. There is some conflict, some contradiction, but it drew me in, so maybe you can develop on it. Maybe you can make it, and which I think was the goal of your speech, to show that the real life is much richer than the virtual one. And here I have a suggestion which is different from, I think, what Arnie talked about before. I think this is a case when maybe you can give a few examples as opposed to a single story of a single trip. Maybe you can compare different styles of like different games. I don't know what your son was doing. Was it the Quest? Was it like a role playing or Arcada? So maybe show this difference, what life actually is, as opposed to some symbolism of all these games. And this is just a thought, like a weird thought, maybe, to deepen your message. I also think that it would be helpful to do some sort of reality check, what you think and what you're showing. And only a single example. You said, I want to tell my son something exciting. And then you came to him and said, stand like this. It wasn't exciting, like to me. So just the body language align with your words. You have such wonderful storytelling abilities. It's a talent. So you can continue using it and just deepen your messages. Back to you, Kevin. Thank you, Lena.
Thank you, Tatiana. And then we have Arnie.
Yeah, thank you for, as a parent of, well, what used to be teens and facing the same thing. My kids had the same reaction when I told them we didn't have the internet. I got to, what did you do? I like the title, Unplugged and Unforgettable. I would have used those words as a mantra throughout. I think that would have helped. Well, overall, your facial expressions, your vocal variety, and your gestures were all very effective. But I would also, at times, they felt to me a little too stylized. I would just dial it back a little bit to make it more natural rather than like you're doing an acting thing. I had the same problem with the message, and here's my suggestion would be something like this. Start by asking your son, what is it about your video games that you like? And he said, well, there's this one video game where we explore different worlds. You say, well, how would you like to explore a real world? When I went camping, we explored this and this and this. Or, we get to fight monsters. Guess what? You get to fight a real monster. I fought a real monster right in my tent. It was about, and then you could, in other words, connect your story with, hey, you can get everything and more from what you think you're getting from your video games, you can get when we go camping. And just a suggestion for that. Again, it was, just as every part of your speech needs to contribute to the message. So no matter how cute it is, I mean, I thought the thing you did with the selfie at the end, that was very funny, but it took away from your message. So I would consider sort of taking it. And as far as contests go, I've lost more contests than I can count. And there were a fairly well-known Toastmaster in a district I was in lost to me one time, and he felt he was robbed, and it kept with him for years, literally years. He couldn't let that go. Let that go. All of that, along with our comments, are simply our personal opinion and the opinion of the judges in a particular contest. They get it wrong all the time. So I wouldn't stress about that. The one to beat is you. That is, make your next speech better than your last one. And you have so many wonderful talents. I think there's a great story in here. And I think if you can kind of get that message, find that message, hone that message, and it would be fantastic. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Arnie. At least for me personally, I feel like the story part was very smooth. It was well executed. But when we get to the epilogue, it felt a little choppy, less coherent, and less smooth. And I actually suffer from the same problem myself. And my solution to that is, all right, I can do the storytelling well. Let me hone on the epilogue. Let me try to get that as refined as everything else in the speech. And then suddenly the entirety of the message and of the speech just raised on multiple levels. So that's something that maybe you can try to consider is, well, how can I get that part as good as everything else?
Thank you.
And then last up, we have our final speaker of the day. Let's have speaker 7, Jane Kenny. Jane's from the Club Santa Clara University MBA Toastmasters. She's working on the pathway engaging humor, and this will be her level 3 project, Connect Through Storytelling. This is also a contest speech for a district. So let's have all of our great areas of improvement in our evaluations. Jane Kenny, an outrageous proposal. An outrageous proposal, Jane Kenny.
Fellow Toastmasters, have you ever had those moments when you're just so depleted, so exhausted, you can't even see straight? That was the state that I was in when my professor called me aside. And she told me that she was really very concerned about my exhaustion and that she would like to share with me something that she did when she was a student. And what that was is she took a do-nothing day. She did nothing. She just slept, read the Sunday New York Times, and drank tea. Are you kidding me? I'm the mother of 5 children. I have a husband, and I am a full-time student. That is the most outrageous thing I have ever heard. Yet, it did sound delicious. I rushed home. I called to the children's father. Hey, Bobby, you're not going to believe what this professor suggested I do. What's that, hon? She suggested I take a whole day and do nothing but read the New York Times, drink some tea, and sleep. And that I do nothing but renew, restore, and refresh myself. Sounds like a good idea, Jane. I'll tell you what. I will cook breakfast and serve you in bed on Sunday, and we will declare it your do-nothing day. wow, that was a lot easier than I thought it would be. Sunday came, and I picked up the Sunday New York Times, and I put it on my bed. And as I'm putting it on my bed and reaching for my cup of tea, my eye caught a line there. And the next thing you know, I had to put my tea down, reach for a pad and a pen, because oozing out of me was a poem. As a full-time student, I had a full-time assignment to write a poem. Who ever heard of writing a poem for a filmmaking class? An English class, yes, but a filmmaking class? Oh, if I had known you were going to give us this kind of assignment, I would never have taken this class. I am not a poet. I cannot write poetry. And you cannot fail me. I am the mother of young children, and I have to be a role model for them. The ranting, the raving, and the railing was to no avail. And yet, oozing out of me was this poem. Believe it or not, it was the best poem in the class. I was stunned. My professor was stunned. My classmates were stunned. And what I learned from this experience is, if I allow myself to take the time to renew, to restore, and to refresh myself, it allows my creativity to bubble up through me, which also impacts my productivity. I then went into the work world. And in the work world, I discovered do nothing moments. A do nothing moment happens when you find yourself stopped, as I did, preparing for the area contest. I had a full-blown panic attack. I couldn't remember anything. And I was so fearful that I was going to spend 5 to 7 minutes staring at the screen with nothing to say. Just like a deer in the headlights. And then the little voice in my head, the one that's saying to you, what's she talking about? That one said to me, Jane, take your own advice. And I did. I went for a walk, and I realized it was ridiculous that I would stand for 5 to 7 minutes and say nothing. I always have something to say. When I calmed down, I went to the contest, and here I am today as a result of taking a do-nothing moment. I would like to encourage each and every one of you to take do-nothing moments. And when you do, be careful, because what's going to happen is all the things that are undone, you're going to think you should fill that time with those things and catch up. But that's a catch-up day. That is not a do-nothing day. My mom gave me this advice on the day that I got married. She said, honey, there will always be housework. And just like there will always be housework, there will always be that to-do list calling your name and pulling you. So it may not always be a good book to read. I suggest you read the book. And I invite each and every one of you. Like Socrates said, we all have the answers inside of us. And when we have those moments that we're stopped or we stuck, that we take the time to renew, restore, and refresh ourselves by doing nothing. Fellow Toastmasters.
Thank you, Jane. Now let us have our coaches spotlighted. Awesome. And let's start with our first coach, PK.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Jane, for that wonderful speech about taking time to do nothing. I'm a mindfulness practitioner, and I was immediately connected to your speech. So great, you did a great job on that topic. Here are the aspects that I really liked about your speech. The first thing is you had a very clear structure and a very clear delivery methodology. So wonderful job on that. I also liked the way how you opened your presentation speech with a question by asking, have you ever been so depleted that you couldn't see straight? So wonderful job on that. I've been on so many such situations and I was able to immediately connect with your topic. And I also liked the way how you came up with a solution that your professor shared with you, because sometimes I have made the mistake of coming up with a solution myself and sharing it with the audience, and which sometimes backfired on me because people thought that I was a little bit arrogant and trying to be showing as if I was smarter than the other people. So you did a very great job on sharing the knowledge that you learned from someone else, in this case, your professor. Great job. And I also like the way how you created a twist by saying, by bringing in a problem, like saying, I have 5 children and how am I going to take some time doing nothing? So great job on that twist. And I also like the way how your husband suggested that he would be making breakfast for you on Sundays, and how you were able to get some time doing nothing. And during that moment came out your best poem in your academic career, in your academics. So wonderful job on that. And I also like the way how you ended your speech with a proper and clear call to action that says, take time to do nothing. Wonderful job on that. I really liked every aspect of your speech. I only have one minor suggestion. When you tried sharing an important message with the audience, there was a moment where I noticed a finger pointing like this. In professional speaking, I just said that when somebody points a finger like this, it means they're trying to take some corrective action towards the person to whom that person is speaking. So one suggestion I learned from my speech coach is that in case if someone has a habit like this, pointing fingers at others, this is an actual example that from Mr. Bill Clinton, looks like he had this habit of pointing fingers at his audience. So his speech coach told him to fold his finger like this, and that's the reason why you could see Bill Clinton was always pointing his fingers like this. So one thing to avoid is not to show, because this is like a corrective action using a button and just trying to hit the audience. So that is the only minor suggestion I have. So overall, wonderful speech. Thank you.
Thank you, PK. Next, we have Tatiana.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Thanks a lot, Jane. That was a great, very wise message. I also only have a few suggestions for you, and I want to start with the suggestions. You asked at the beginning, and it was very effective. You used your voice to actually convey the question you asked. Have you ever felt depleted, loss of energy? I didn't write the whole message, the whole question down. I would develop it a little bit more. We often find ourselves out of energy by many reasons. Maybe we just run a marathon, or we just push ourselves too much. I think the question actually I needed to answer was, do you find yourself out of energy and having 1,000 things to do still? And I would want to hear your answer right away, because this is a situation which I often find myself in. Even if the answer is rather paradoxical, if you say, my recipe, do nothing, and then develop it the way you did. So the bottom line of this suggestion is just I wanted the solution a little bit earlier than later in the speech. Poem. I like how you came up with the poem. I want to know what the poem was about. I believe that if I tell my audience something, I ought to give them a little bit more details. I was very curious about the poem. Maybe a line, maybe something. And I was wondering if your husband brought you the breakfast. You did tell us that he would, that he promised he would, but I didn't realize if he did. He probably did, so just don't cover this detail. I like do nothing moment. I like the burst in creativity. I like your humor when you said, I always have something to say. Really, it was subtle, very effective. Your arms. When you use your arms, it's very effective. When you don't use your arms, don't use them. Like, keep a quiet background. That would be my suggestion. Overall, it was a very well built speech, a very wise advice, which I'm going to use over this weekend. Back to you, Kevin. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you, Tatiana. And last up, we have Arnie.
Well, I'm going to take your message and I'm going to do nothing for the next 2.5 minutes. Just kidding. Wonderful message. I liked how you used dialogue in various places, like when you said, it did sound delicious. I mean, that sounded delicious to me, and I felt the deliciousness of it. And the dialogue with your husband, I need to make sure my wife does not hear this speech because I am not going to bring her breakfast in bed. No, of course I would. That was just kidding. Some suggestions. Use dialogue more. Your professor, you told us what the professor said. Tell her what she said. Jane, I'm concerned, use dialogue effectively later. I liked how you had this refrain of review, renew, refresh, restore. I would consider making that the title of the speech. Or the title was an outrageous proposal. If you're going to stick with that title, then use that, say that, doing nothing. It seemed like an outrageous proposal, but connect the two. I think that it's always powerful when you can use the title of a speech as a refrain, as you did. The props, the paper and the teacup, they didn't help at all. I would ditch those. Like Tatiana, I would have loved to have heard a little bit of the poem. One statement that I've heard that I think might be effective is, don't just stand there. Don't just do something. Stand there. Anyway, just now you brought your mom in when, and I noticed the green light had got at 5 minutes, and that was a little late. If your mom's going to be in there, bring her in earlier. If not, then she wasn't really needed. But if she's needed, make sure she comes in a little bit earlier. Consider setting up the poem assignment as the cause of stress that puts you over the top. In other words, if you set that up earlier, you kind of brought that in as the problem and then solved it right away. Bring it as a problem earlier. I got this poem. I don't know how to write poems. I've never written a poem. What's this? Et cetera. Bring that in early. That's the cause of your stress. When you refresh and have your wonderful, amazing husband bring you breakfast in bed, then it's then you can solve that problem that you've set up. Again, overall, wonderful message. And I'm going to go and I'm going to just do nothing for a little while. Thank you.
Thank you, Arnie. I have to echo a lot of the points that were spoken. I feel like the part when you said, was it that easy? That really stuck with me because really, a lot of times it's that easy. We're just blocking ourselves from mentally doing that. I do want to point out one thing, that in contest speeches, the background is actually really important. And in your case, I would recommend bring the divider in the back, just bring it forward and use that divider to block out the things in the background such that there is less visual information for us to process and we can pay more attention to your movement and your speeches. That will be it for all of our speeches and all of our evaluations. I want to thank all of the amazing speakers to give really engaging speeches. And of course, I also learned so much from the various evaluations that's given from our coaches. Thank you all for making this a great event. And I definitely want to shout out to the people who made this event possible. We have Dan, who stepped in as the timer in the last moment. And we have Carrie, who just plowed through the tech without any issues. That's absolutely miraculous. And of course, Abhijit for pulling everything together behind the scenes. Thank you all. I totally enjoyed this event. I learned so much. And we actually ended right on time. Back to you all.
Great.